Welcome to another episode of the Peak Potential Success Show. My name is Fong. I'm an entrepreneur, business strategist, real estate investor, speaker, and also best-selling author. And every single day, I help others unlock potentials and guide them to succeed. Today on the show, we have a great guest. He comes highly recommended by other listeners and other guests for what he does, because he does an amazing job and on an area that's very important for businesses, startups, because it's something that not many people think about, but really need that in place in order for them to be successful. He is somebody who's helped a lot of startups with their protecting and then also growing their brands and inventions. He's launched several 7 and 8 figure startup companies, but he doesn't just work with small businesses and startups. He's worked with some of the biggest brands out there, from Amazon, Ford, Intel, IBM, and many more. He's also the host of the Inventive Journey podcast. So please welcome an expert in patents, trademarks, copyrights, CEO of MILLER I.P. Law, Mr. Devin Miller.
Hey, thank you for having me on. That was quite the introduction. Makes me feel like I'm a lot grander than I probably am. So thank you for that.
Well, first of all, thank you very much for being here. It's always great to talk to other people who is very good at what they do. And I hear you're one of the best at this area with regards to patents, copyrights, stuff that I really don't want to look into because I don't enjoy reading all that paperwork. But first of all, share with us your origin story. How did you become the person who loves reading all this paperwork and being so great at it?
Oh, that could be an hour episode in and of it itself. So I'll try to keep it a bit shorter. But the shorter, more condensed version is so backing up all the way to undergraduate. So I ended up getting 4 degrees, which my wife always jokes is 3 degrees too many. So I ended up, or when I was doing undergraduate, I got dual degrees in electrical engineering and Mandarin Chinese, with the emphasis being on electrical engineering. But as I got to the end of the undergraduate, basically I was step back and saying, what do I want to be when I grow up, or what kind of job do I want to do, so to speak. And I basically looked at and said, well, I like engineering, but I don't want to be an engineer, in the sense that, the typical engineer is a small cog in a big wheel. You are working on a small portion of a big project. You have to work a lot of years before you get up into anywhere into management or have any direction or say on that. And I said, that just doesn't suit probably my personality. And so with that, I basically said, well, I have, kind of 2 paths that are of interest to me. One is, I think, the legal side of doing that and going to law school and being an intellectual property attorney sounds interesting. Get to work on a lot of innovations, utilize my engineering degree, or doing more of the entrepreneurial business route, which would be more of an MBA. So basically, rather than decide one or the other, I just split the path and did both. So I went off and did a dual degree and got a law degree as well as an MBA. And with that, alongside of that, I was always kind of pursuing both. So give you kind of context, at that time I was doing both degrees, working 20 hours as a law clerk for a law firm. I had a 2-year-old and a newborn. And then in the midst of that, I decided, I saw a flyer or an email or something along those lines of doing a business competition. Basically, you get multiple different disciplinaries together, all form a group, and you enter in a business competition. So I did that for a couple of years. First year didn't take off or go anywhere, but the second year had a pretty good idea that we entered in the competition, took second place, which I'm still bitter because I think we should have got first. But from that spun out probably my first real startup, and that one's still going today. I'm a less active role, or still have an ownership stake in it, but that's one of the businesses. And so kind of from all of that as an origin story, the rest of my career has basically been pursuing both, doing the legal side, intellectual property, helping a lot of businesses, getting to see a lot of cool ideas, a lot of cool inventions, getting a lot of diversity, and then also pursuing a lot of my own startups and small businesses alongside of that.
So looking back, during all that time you spent getting the electrical engineering degree, how has that kind of complemented with all the stuff that you're doing now?
Yeah, so a couple things. One is, in order to be a patent attorney, so we get the special, I would say special in quotes, privilege of taking not 1 but 2 bar exams. So normal attorneys, you go take 1 bar exam for whichever state you're going to practice in, and that's all you need. If you want to be a patent attorney, you have to take a second bar exam, which is called a patent bar. In order to actually be eligible and to be able to sit for the patent bar, you have to have a technical undergraduate degree. So electrical engineering, software or computer science or computer engineering, mechanical engineering, some math, some physics, depending on the degree. So in one sense, I wouldn't be able to do what I do as a patent attorney if I didn't have the engineering undergraduate. The second one is it is much more beneficial. And the reason they do that, and the reason I enjoy it, is you work with a lot of different technical things. I work with a lot of software, I work with a lot of electronics, I also do a lot of hardware. And to have a lot of that foundational understanding of what the inventions are, how to work, how to describe them, and everything else, you need to have that technical background to be able to really do a good job for your clients. So that's kind of why, in a one sense, I leverage it all the time, and why it's also required. I wouldn't be able to do it anyway if I didn't have it.
Now, you mentioned that your wife makes fun of you, saying that you have three degrees too many. My question for you is, after you got your engineering degree, and then I'm sure lots of people will go, well, why do you want to pursue more stuff? And then once you went and got your law degree, then they go, well, why do you still want to do startups? Why do you still want to be an entrepreneur? Why do you want to do so many different things? Question to you is, has anybody tried to hold you back?
I don't know, holding back. I would say there's a difference between holding you back versus encouraging you. So I don't know that I feel like anybody has tried to dissuade me or try to stop me from doing it. And I would say for the most part, probably all been pretty well encouraging. Now, so I said, my wife, she jokes. I mean, she was very supportive. She had to run the family for a long period of time while I was doing, a lot of things with degrees and school and work and everything else. And so she held down the fort. She's awesome at that. And I say it in jest, or as far as the 4 degrees, but she was very supportive. But the main thing, I don't know that it was ever, I felt like somebody's holding me back. It was more of just, I was always not fitting inside the box. In other words, typically you go to a big law firm, your aspiration is you go work for the big law firm, you work there for a number of years, hopefully you make partner, and then you get a bigger earn-in and a bigger payout. You might have a very small say if it's a big firm, and that's the trajectory. And so where I don't fit into that box, it was always kind of people were more curious or pushing back, I guess, or whatever you want to say it, of, I don't necessarily, why don't you take the traditional path, or what doesn't make sense? And, and I basically kind of walk through. I love entrepreneurship. I love small businesses. I like diversity. I have a lot of things I like to do. And so it was more of just people were thinking it was unique or different or otherwise or outside the normal box. But in that sense, so people I worked with, that would probably be the box they fit in. They wouldn't get why I would do it, but they wouldn't necessarily be dissuading. Family members were awesome. My dad was awesome as far as I've got to work with him on some of my startups. My wife's always been there. My kids don't know any better, so it's all worked out pretty well.
That's nice. So you've included people who are there, supportive, and kind of bring them along, so that you don't let them kind of waver off to the side or anything like that. Now, with regards to being different, like not many lawyers or people of your technical skill set would then go off and do podcasts as well. So then how did that come along?
Because startups are my hobby. No, that is true. But the real reason is, so as I mentioned, so that is a longer answer. I worked for some larger law firms for about 6 years of my career. And as you mentioned, prior to starting my own firm, I worked with clients including Amazon, Intel, Red Hat, Ford, and others. And when I started the law firm, it was really out of the desire, the motivation. Hey, I would like to start or focus more on startups and small businesses. It's kind of the clientele I like to work with. They're more fun. You got to be, they're more intertwined with their business, give them more guidance. And it's just, otherwise I just found that that's the clients I like to work with. And so that's when I started Miller IP Law, and up until including today, and continuing to be the clients we focus on. We have a few smaller or a few medium-sized clients as well. They're not all startups and small business, but by and large, that's most of the clients we work with. So working with those type of clients, you also get to hear a lot of the kind of the same things over and over, which is it's a hard journey. Everybody else seems to have it figured out. I have to wear a lot of hats. I'm the janitor, I'm the boss, I'm the HR department, I'm marketing, I'm sales, I build websites, I have to do shipping, and and all of those things. And so it always feels like, for a lot of entrepreneurs, it feels like everybody else has a journey figured out except for us. Everybody else has the answers because, when you go watch the movies, the TV shows, read the books, it's an overnight, everybody's an overnight success and they never talk about that journey. So really the podcast has started out of the sense of, hey, why don't we take a step back and actually tell those journeys? And so people can find out nobody's an overnight success. There's always a journey behind it. There's, everybody's having to go through different things. Some people go right out of college. Some people don't go to college. Some people do it late in career. Some people come out of retirement. And there isn't just one journey, and everybody comes at it a different way. And so a lot of those feelings that everybody thinks that they're the only ones having, a lot of other people have. So that's really where the podcast started, is kind of to, in a sense, give back to clients and help them understand that. And then it's just continue to grow from there.
That is actually awesome. I know, like, lots of people think, oh, wow, you're an overnight success, but then they don't ask about, well, what happened in the first 10 years of that kind of thing, right? And it's always nice to hear those stories. For yourself, when it comes to the patents and the copyrights, you've worked with some of the most biggest names out there, and you've also worked with startups. What would you say are some of the most common things that big companies, big brands forget to think about when it comes to your expertise in the patents and trademarks and stuff? And then in contrast, compare that to what startups usually forget to think about.
Yeah, if I were to go with the big brands first, they're usually pretty good. If you get to a large size company, have a large amount of revenue, generally you get there because you're good at what you do, right? And so Amazon wouldn't be great it wouldn't be a huge company if they didn't offer a great service and people loved using it. Apple wouldn't be huge if they didn't have a lot of products and innovation. And so, I think that one of the things that if you're not careful with the larger companies, that they tend to forget that everybody started as a startup, and sometimes they have the opportunity to squash them, even if it's hey, we can have a frivolous lawsuit that's still going to cost the startup or small business way more money than they have, and we can just put them out because we want to be ahead of the competition. And so they tend to forget that more on just a business sense and business perspective. The other thing that sometimes I've seen, depends on the size of the company and how or good they are at it, is you'll start to just file patents on everything or trademarks on everything. And, they say, hey, we have the money, we have the bandwidth, but it's not that you don't have the funds maybe to spend on it, but is it the best return on your investment? And just because you can spend on it doesn't mean that it's worthwhile. And so sometimes because you get big, your budgets grow, you let the attorneys drive things more than they should as far as pursuing innovation, because now you're going after things that probably aren't valuable to the company. The one other thing on bigger businesses, sometimes it's probably more medium size, is they always get the tipping point that it doesn't make sense to do a law firm versus hire it in-house. If you're a small company, the answer is simple. We don't have the budget to hire a full-time attorney. But as you get bigger, and sometimes because they have relationships, they've been using a law firm for a while, and that they never explore bringing it in-house as opposed to doing it. And there's different reasons. Sometimes it makes sense to bring it in-house, and sometimes I don't. So big companies, those are some of the things that they sometimes will trip up on. Part of flip now, your second part of your question is small companies. And small companies are kind of, in a sense, the opposite. Most of the time, the issues that the small companies have is, one, they just don't realize that they need it, and so they wait way too long, or two, that they don't have the budgets, right? And by all means, I get it. As a startup or a small business, you always have more things to spend money on than money to spend, and you're always trying to figure out, which or where to spend that money. And so a lot of times you're saying, well, legal stuff, intellectual property, we'll worry about that down the road. We'll do that at a later date once we have more money, once we're bigger. And they'll wait too long, and then they start to miss some of the windows that they can pursue it. So I'll give you an example. Let's say you were to take the patent. You had an awesome invention, going to change the world. You're a startup, a small business, and you're going to say, hey, this is going to be a really impactful thing, big marketplace and everything else. And so they get going and they don't think about, put it off, push it down the road. They don't think about it. They're out in the marketplace for a couple of years, and then they circle back and say, hey, now we're making some money, we're getting some income. Why don't we go and look and see if we can get this patented? By that point, they're already too late. So, and one of the rules, as an example in patent law, is anytime you put things out in the public, so put it on a website, you do a presentation, white paper, you start selling it, you start pitching it, whatever that is, from the first instance you put out in the public, you have 1 year within which you can pursue a patent on it. You miss out window, you've now just donated your invention to the public. Anybody can do it, anybody can pursue it, and you can't get protection on it. And so in that sense, a lot of times they'll come in and say, hey, I've been doing this a couple of years. Now I'd like to get protection. And then we get to talk about how that's awesome. Their business is doing well, but they can't get protection. And there's some other things kind of like with trademarks, similar things as far as, if somebody else files on it before they do. So most of the time with startups and small businesses, it's that they wait too long and because they don't understand or what some of the things that they can trip up on are.
I see. Now, when it comes to budgets, and you mentioned that before for smaller businesses, when do they what kind of questions would you ask them for them to determine whether it's worth it or not? Because they have to sit there going, okay, well, I have to spend this much money to put the patent on, but the returns aren't here yet. Like, do they need to balance, well, how far in the future do I have to look at this in order to spend the money now?
Yeah, I mean, one is just whether or not you can wait, right? So one of the things is if you're going to go sell it and you're saying, hey, this is going to be valuable, you can't, if you're putting it on the public, you have that 1 year time clock ticking. So then you have to make the decision, how we're going to be, a competitive advantage. Is it going to be, we're going to try and maintain exclusivity? We don't have the budget, then we're just going to have to continue to innovate, and we'll have to figure out our next great product after this one. So one of the questions is kind of what business are you going to be in? Are you going to make 1 or 2 great products and you want to have exclusivity, or are you just going to continue to try and stay ahead of the competition as they start to knock it off? Because if they do, they will. So you have to look at that as far as timing. My general rule of thumb, which is, it's hard to have a general rule of thumb because a lot of businesses are different. But if you're getting to the point that if a business were coming along and they were to knock off your product, and that would be an ouch factor. In other words, it were to be impactful. And that can be whether it's a brand, it can be whether it's an invention or anything else. But if they are coming along and you say, hey, if they knock it off, yes, that would suck, but it wouldn't be that big of a deal. We'd pivot, we'd adjust, and it wouldn't, we could continue on. It wouldn't be that impactful to business. Then you can consider maybe we don't need protection, or at least not yet. Mm-hmm. On the other hand, you're saying, no, I'm investing $1 million in this business. I'm going to put 3 years of my life into it. We're going to put all this time, money, and effort. We're going to bring on these people. We're going to make commitments. If somebody to come along and knock off what we're doing, it'd kill the business or really be impactful or really decrease our revenues. You're getting to a point where whatever you're building needs to be protected because that's what is the value of your business. And so it's really more of stand back and say, somebody to knock off, whether it's our brand, whether it's our creatives, whether it's our inventions or whatnot, how is it going to impact the business? And if it's going to be that impactful in a more detrimental way, then you're probably getting to the point where you should consider intellectual property.
Awesome. Now, there's a lot of people on who's listening in the entrepreneur space who are either coaches, trainers, speakers, and all that kind of stuff, where they go, yeah, we create a lot of content. We create courses, we create books and all this kind of stuff. Now, to them, is it necessary for them to go through this whole patent or copywriting, mainly because it's information that they create, and technically information you could find almost anywhere. Like once you Google something, you can find endless amount of information. So for people like that, would it be advantageous for them to still go through with all that paperwork?
Yeah, it depends. I mean, give me a couple examples. Are they writing the next Harry Potter book? Probably. If they're writing the next Harry Potter book or Lord of the Rings or Tom Clancy, pick your book or genre. Are they making a movie that is going to be that? Are they making the next viral video? Let's say they make a music video, Gangnam Style or Baby Shark or whatever you want to call it. And, those are all pretty valuable things. And so while it's a one-off, it can be pretty valuable in that sense. Yeah, you'd want to protect it. Or if you're to go and take some really great images and photographs that you use to sell your product and showcase it in a new and unique way that isn't just simply, some common knowledge information that you write slightly different. Then you're going to want to protect it. If on the other, or give you, coaching, let's say you take the 7 habits of highly effective people, or you go with Covey and those type of things. All of those impactful, a lot of value to the business. The 7 habits, there's a whole industry on all of that. You have all of those type of things. Then you're going to want to protect it. But on the other hand, what you're really just building is, hey, we're going to go out and we're better at marketing, we're better at sales. Then maybe not. Maybe, and if you're churning out, if the other way to look at it is if you're churning out a lot of content, no one piece of content, if it's is in and of itself is valuable, it's the aggregation of all the content together and your brand, then you're probably going to say, Creatives, probably not. If they wouldn't copy any one given piece, no big deal. People are trusting us with the brand, with the personality, with the way we present it. Then you're probably still going to want to get a trademark because your brand is your value. So generally, there's still things that you'd want to protect. But if it's a lot of content, no one piece is going to be or hold too much value, then probably not as relevant for at least the time being.
I'm happy that you mentioned the trademark. I've heard people who would go around just go, you know what, just put TM on it, and people see it, they won't bother you. Just like how at your security at your home security, if you put the sticker, it usually takes care of 95% of the chance of it being broken into. Is that true? Can people just go in and put a TM behind something and make people assume that it's trademarked?
If people are if you're dealing with less astute people, maybe, and then I'm not saying that they aren't smart, but less familiar with what the TM versus the R is, they don't know much about trademarks. It's kind of like if you're mark something patent pending, it'd be the same thing. So it will scare off a degree of people. Now, couple issues with that. One is, if I'm astute enough, if you only put a TM in there, it means you're not registered trademark, means you have a very narrow amount of limited cover of protection that's called with common law or state law. And so you don't have a lot of protection with that TM. And so I'm saying, great, they're not going to be as big of a deal. And also, if I'm more astute, I'm going to say it indicates that they have never they're not big enough to be worthwhile to even invest in their brand to protect it. I'm probably, if I have more money or well-funded, then I'm not going to worry about it. The other thing you have to think about is not only is if I go put a TM, if somebody else, either because they like the brand and they knock it off, or just, independent just comes up with it and they go file on the trademark first federally, in other words, they register it, you've now just significantly restricted your ability to grow. What it basically does is, if you were the first person to use a brand and somebody else registers a trademark after you can continue to operate in the geographic location you're at. So let's say you're in Chicago selling pizza, you came up with an awesome brand, you can still sell your pizza in Chicago, but you've just lost your ability to sell it everywhere else. So if you ever wanted to franchise, you ever wanted to open up different locations, you ever wanted to do anything else, you're out of luck, or unless you want to go and rebrand. So it will scare off some people, but if you ever get to any size or value with the business, that's quickly going to diminish. Maybe at the very beginning, if you're small and you're just trying to scare off other people that are also small, that has a little bit of value.
Now, when it comes to startups, at what stage should people start engaging with you?
Short answer is earlier the better. And it may not be that they have something that they need to do today, but you're better to get a roadmap or an idea, or, hey, here are the things I want to consider. Here are the avenues I could protect. And then as we have the bandwidth or the budget or the ability, then you can circle back with them. So it's much easier to be aware. As an example, you only have a year to file a patent. Well, then, okay, we better start saving for that, as opposed to waiting 2 years and then not be able to protect it. Or, hey, I'm gonna go in and I'm really great at branding, I'm gonna go invest a ton of money in marketing, but I'm gonna go put a TM there. And so, and those type of things, earlier the better. And as far as when that is, beyond that, it's just gonna be, when you have the bandwidth. One of the things that we do, and we're not the only ones, but I think we do it well, is we offer free consultations for 15-20 minutes where people can come in, ask their questions, get an idea of what things are going to cost, when they should start considering things, and kind of go through that strategy session or strategy meeting. That's always beneficial. So earlier the better is the best answer. And then beyond that, you're just going to have to look at what you have the bandwidth to do as you're juggling a lot of balls with the business.
I guess I should have kind of clarified this at the beginning of the podcast, but question to you is, can you simplify the difference between a patent, a trademark, and a copyright?
Yep, absolutely. And I'll take one step back, because the other thing you also hear is intellectual property. Okay. So intellectual property is a umbrella term. It basically means, it has underneath it has patents, trademarks, and copyright. So if you hear somebody talk about intellectual property, they really can be referring to any or all of the above of patents, trademarks, and copyrights. Now, within that, so patents are basically a way that you can go about protecting an invention, something that does something that has a functionality. It can be hardware, software, component or electrical, a lot of different things, some of them pharmaceutical, some food products. There's a lot that goes into it, but anything that's kind of an innovation that does something. For trademarks, that's going to go towards protecting brands, Typically, it's the name of a company or a business, a catchphrase, a logo, a name of a product, or something along those lines. Anything that's to do with branding really falls under trademarks. The last one is on copyrights, and copyrights are going to go towards protecting creatives. So a book, a painting, a sculpture, a movie, a podcast, anything along those lines, all those are going to fall under creatives, are going to go under copyright. So patents are for inventions, trademarks are for brands, copyrights are for creatives.
Mhm. Now, throughout all your years of doing what you do, can you share with us one case or one example where, man, I wish they did that sooner, or man, I wish I did that sooner?
Oh, that's a good question. There's so many fun innovations we've worked on. Yeah, I mean, one of the ones, and I don't know where it's at because they've since or gone through multiple iterations of it and gone off and done other things. But one of the ones that I remember, at least it sticks out in my mind, was a gas can. Now you're saying, hey, what's interesting about a gas can? What's cool or unique about it? Typically, you're gonna say gas cans are all the red things that you carry around and that. But what they did is they said, they had a problem of when they went out and they went snowmobiling, when you put them on a trailer, typically the way you do it is you put a strap through each of the handles, try and cinch them down. They all move all over the place. It creates a fire hazard, creates creates other issues. And so they just said, why don't we just put a hole through the middle of the gas can? Simple thing, but now I can strap it through the middle, makes it a lot easier to strap it down. It was a pretty simple invention, and yet it was one that sticks out in my mind as just a cool, hey, I've got a problem. I need to be able to strap down my gas can. The current ways they do it, there isn't a good solution. I'm going to come up with something simple that allows it to to address a problem, and that away they went. So that was kind of one fun one. Another one that I always thought was cool, and I like to pick on the simple ones just because they're easy to explain and they're quick to walk through. Another one was cool was they had a lady that had a lot of animals. And so one of the things to when you have animals is they generally shed. And when they shed, you get all of the hair all over your clothes, and then you're putting them in the wash. And they have some devices or some things that kind of work, but really it's hard to get off clothes, period, and doesn't really come off very well in the wash. And so they basically took, magnetic sticky pads, so to speak, and just would put them on the inside of the dryer. And then as they tumbled around, the stickiness of the sticky pad would then start to pull off the hair. Again, really simple, but solved the problem. Was kind of a cool idea, and I thought that was fun. So there's a lot of those, but those are a couple ones that at least come initially to mind that were some cool innovations.
Is there anything that's out in the market right now that you are a part of?
Oh, yeah. I mean, that I'm a part of. There's one of the original company that I started in MBA school. That one is iterated. It started out as a wearable hydration monitoring company. Now it's evolved into a diabetes monitoring company. They're out in the marketplace. One of the ones that I've done more on the branding that I'm doing with my kids and with the family is we started a food truck that's for in the winter is hot or gourmet hot chocolate and donuts. In the summer it's milkshake and fries. And so that one's out in the marketplace, not as an innovation or an invention, but more on the branding side that makes it fun. So
Wow.
Those are a couple ones that I worked on that are out in the marketplace.
That is amazing. So you're practicing law. You have tons of startups. You have a food truck. You get your family involved, and I can tell you are very, very high energy. You speak fast. You're very excited about what you're doing. You're very passionate. Where does that energy come from? You wake up in the day and go, "Oh wow, I'm ready to go," or what's your kind of ritual or your daily routine that gets you going and excited for what you do?
Yeah, I don't know if I have a daily routine. I have some things I do each day, but once I get to work, what I'm doing beyond answering emails and calls with clients is different, a lot of different or varies the day to day or week to week. Some of the things I do is it's been now probably 15-20 years since I've been doing it, which shows how old I'm getting now. But I like to run every morning. So I usually, or every morning other than Sunday mornings, I'll run anywhere from about 7.5 to 9.5 miles on a morning jog. Try and usually get 9.5 miles unless I wake up too late. So that's one of the ways that I like to do. And then the other thing that I do alongside of that is when I'm doing that morning jog is I also like to listen to books. So I'm either listening to books on tape, usually with Audible, or I'm listening to a podcast, so that not only am I getting the physical exercise and getting up and going in the morning, but I'm also getting to learn things that generally when I'm in the office or when I come home when I'm with the family, I don't get to do. So my day is usually I'll wake up around 5:30, 6 o'clock in the morning, go for about a 9.5 mile run, listen to a podcast or a book for hour and a half, couple hours, come into work, answer emails, put out fires, work with clients, work on different businesses. That's all different. Then I'll usually knock off around 6:30, go home, be with the family, and then go to bed, and the day starts all over again.
If you don't mind me asking, you mentioned you're doing like food trucks with your family, your kids. How old are your kids? Like, is there an age where you go, okay, now we can start implementing some of these entrepreneurship spirits into our lives?
I don't know that I ever thought about. I mean, my kids, give you an idea. Right now, they are my oldest son. I have 4 kids. My oldest is my son, and he's 12. They go down to a 7-year-old, which is my 3 daughters in the mix. And I don't know, they've at least been doing things with me for at least a couple years. And so, I mean, I had them as an example, have them come in and help clean the office. And so, they're the cleaning staff. They come in, they have their own jobs, they get to clean it, they get to, earn some money. I pay them. And they get to do that. They've also, one of the other things, so we have I'll call it a hobby farm or a smaller farm. And one of the things we did is we went up, chopped up wood, cut it all up, and then they put it in bundles and they sold it on the corner to people as they were going to camping and hunting. And so they've done that for years. We're now doing a food truck. And so, I guess they've at least the youngest our kids started when they were 4 or 5. And so I guess if they could walk, they could talk, and they could help out, they were usually learning some skill.
Man, I can't imagine being that in your kids' class every weekend, every Monday, or when they go, so what did you do this weekend? Oh, I ran a food truck, I sold, I made this much money as a 10-year-old or a 9-year-old. That's absolutely amazing. You work with a lot of people, you coach a lot of people, you mentor a lot of people when it comes to their startups, their businesses and whatnot. What was one of the biggest advice or aha moments that you've gotten from somebody?
Yeah, I'll steal it from so as you mentioned, we do a podcast. I'll plug it really quick, then I'll leave it alone. Called The Inventive Journey. But so one of the questions I always ask a couple of questions at the end. One is, along your journey, what was the worst business decision you ever made? What'd you learn from it? And the other one that I always ask is, if you're talking to someone who's just getting into a startup or a small business, what would be the one piece of advice you'd give them? Now, a lot of different variety of answers, but I'd say probably the number one answer, and we've now done over 500 or we're coming up on 500 episodes, so we've done a lot, but probably the number one answer is I wish I got started earlier. And it doesn't mean that just because you got started early, you're going to be more successful. It doesn't mean that they would have made more money or they'd be able to retire or have a yacht or have an island or whatever. But it's more of once they get going, for the vast majority of people, they find that they love it. This is what they want to do. And they, and it gives them a lot or higher degree of gratification for their career and for their life. And so if I were to say kind of one takeaway or one thing that people should be doing is just get started earlier. And it can be, if you can't go and just jump off and start a full-time business, start it as a side hustle, start it as a small business, do something to get started with the intent of let's try it out, let's see if you love it, and then if you can continue to move towards doing it as a full-time gig. So get started early.
Nicely said. Words to live by. I know there's a lot of startups waiting for you to launch. So before I let you go, I got 5 quick questions for you before you go. First question is, you're stranded on the deserted island, one food to eat for the rest of your life, no consequence.
That is a good one. I'll go with ice cream. My wife likes ice cream, but I like ice cream as well. I'll go with ice cream.
All right.
Plus I'm on a desert island, or I'm on an island. I'm assuming it's going to be hot and ice cream will cool me down. So it has the added benefit.
Hey, awesome. Hollywood calls and goes, hey, Devin, we love your story. We want to do a biopic on you. You get to choose who plays you.
Ooh, that is a tough question. I'll go with Liam Neeson just because I just like that, or like when he did the Take It and he has the his catchphrase, and so I'll go with Liam Neeson.
All right, Liam Neeson shows up at your door and goes, "Boy, I got the part. Let's hang out. Let's spend some time with each other. Boy, I'm hungry." And you go, "Hey, don't worry about it, Mr. Neeson. Let me go to the back. I'm going to fix you something nice. What's that special dish that you could cook up?"
So I am not a very good cook on most things. I know this is it's supposed to be a quick question, but the one of the few things I do cook, and so it is a tradition in my family. So my wife does cooking for 6 days out of the week, and on Sundays I'm always the cook, and I do that. Now with that, being the cook, for 3 of the 4 Sundays a week, we just do, or for lunches, I do chicken nuggets just out of the bag from Costco, put them in the oven. But once or the very first Sunday of each month, I'll do homemade chicken nuggets, and I think they're wonderful and fantastic. So if I were to have Liam Neeson come by, then I would do homemade chicken nuggets.
Nice. Got to try those nuggets. Imagine yourself in courtroom. Okay. What is one fictional character you would love to represent, and one that you would like to go against?
Oh, so I'm a Suits fan. Now I know there's lovers and haters of Suits. It's not as much of reality, but I do think there's a lot more aspects of reality to the show. So if I could be along with I don't know, I'd probably go either Harvey or Mike. One would be the one I'd be with, and one would be the one I'd be on the opposing counsel. I'd love to be or go with them or against them on any of them. So I'd go with Harvey or Mike on from Suits.
Awesome. And my last question is, what is success like? But before that, give me a number from 1 to 4.
We'll go with 1.
Number 1. So if you were to relate success to a treat bag, how would success be like a treat bag?
So if I were to treat success as a treat bag, or sorry, say it one more time.
So using a treat bag as a metaphor for success.
All right. You're gonna find things that you like and you don't like. So usually if I ever have a treat bag, I'll go back to like Halloween. You get the little ones that have the little twisty tie, and about half of them are terrible candies that you never want, and half of them are great candies. And so, if I were looking at a treat bag as entrepreneurship and as business, you're going to have things that you encounter that are not fun that you're just going to have to deal with, and there are other things that you're going to love and enjoy and want to do as much as you can of.
Nicely done. So that's how success is like a treat bag. What's the best way for people to get in touch with you?
Yeah, so I'll give 3 ways that they can get in touch with me. So if they want to schedule a free consultation, they want to talk about patents, trademarks, copyrights, or anything else on the legal side, they can go to strategymeeting.com. That links to my calendar, and they can grab some time to chat on that. Second one is, while I'm technically active on all the platforms, I really just like LinkedIn the best, and so that's usually where I spend more of my time on. If they want to go and connect up with me on LinkedIn, they can just go to Meet Miller. So Meet is in MEET, and then Miller, my last name, meetmiller.com, and that will take you to my LinkedIn profile. And then the last one is if they just want to find out more about the law firm, what we do, our prices, our flat fees, learn a ton of information, check out the podcast or anything else. The website is lawwithmiller.com. So
awesome.
If they want to connect with me, strategy.com or strategymeeting.com. LinkedIn is meetmiller.com. Website is lawwithmiller.com.
Great. Awesome. Thank you. Any last words from you?
No, I'm probably talked out. You're probably tired of listening. I talk fast and I say a lot of things, so we're good to go.
Awesome. Thank you very much. Make sure everybody out there, make sure you connect with Devin. I'm sure that if you want to talk to anybody about patents, trademarks, and copyrights, he's the guy, because man, that was exciting as it is, and I'm sure he's going to make all that stuff very entertaining and a lot of fun to listen to. So once again, thank you very much for your time. I learned a lot throughout this period of time, and again, everybody make sure you reach out to Devin, connect with him on social media, follow his stuff, follow his podcast. It's great stuff there, and yeah, connect. So once again, he is Devin. My name is Fong Chuan. Until next time, today is the day to unlock your peak potential. We'll see you later.